Hey everyone, Stephanie Davis here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I'm sharing a card that I made featuring my favorite things stamp set, Happy Pawlidays. And these puppies are so cute. It's going to make lots of cute cards. But today I'm sharing one that I made, a one-layer card that I made. So I'm going to first stamp all this puppy out several times on masking paper. And I'm going to stamp out several of the images several times because I'm going to be cutting it out with my Scan and Cut. And actually, since I upgraded to the Scan and Cut 2, I'm really not sure how it's going to do, if I'm going to need to add a border or not add a border. So I'm showing you quickly my Scan and Cut. I know many of you have had a few questions about it. And this is what it is. It's just a machine that cuts out your images for you. So I'm turning the dial down to a size 2, to a cut to a level 2. And I usually have it set on a 7, but that's basically the blade depth. So I want it really thin for this masking paper. So now I'm going to change the region. I only wanted to cut the top portion of the images that I stamped out. And I love that you can change the region of where you want it to cut. And so now I'm going to be able to cut these images with no border at all. And then I'll change it in a few minutes to cut a few of the images with a border and then again without, so I can compare it. And I actually wind up using without a border because it actually did pretty good. But I really didn't know how I was going to do, and I thought you guys would like to see a little sneak peek of how that works. But I have to say, without a Scan and Cut, I wouldn't do much masking because I hate fussy cutting. And if you hate fussy cutting like me, I really hope Santa brings you a Scan and Cut 2 for Christmas. So now I'm going to do it one more time, and go ahead and load it in my machine, and I'm going to change. It's going to read the images, and then I'm changing it to the region to cut just the lower right hand corner. And I know I sped that up quite a bit, but feel free to use your little gear on the lower right hand corner of your screen if you want to slow down anything that in my videos. But in case you don't care about a Scan and Cut, I don't want to take too long. So the images are all cut, and it did really well, even the little bows. So I do think that is an upgrade from the first machine. So I'm scraping a few of those off, and then I'm going to use all of the mask, and I'm going to create a one-layer card. So I'm using my little Cricut tool to scrape those off really easy, and then I'm going to show you the difference with a border and without a border. And it didn't do perfect, but it did pretty good. So now I'm arranging those out on my card base, and what I'm going to do is I'm just arranging them however I want them to appear in the card. I want the tree to be in the back, and then the ornament, and then the presents, and then I want an ornament to be in the front and a gift behind, and then I'm going to put the puppy in the very front. So I'm lining that all up, but this is just the masking paper. So after I get them all aligned exactly where I want them, then I'm going to use washi tape to hold them down. This is just the quickest and easiest way I've found to do this. And then I can take them all off individually as I use them. And the rest will stay in place, and I won't have to reposition them every time. So I'm going to remove the puppy because that's going to go in the front. And then again, I'm going to use washi tape to hold it down. It just doesn't tear the paper, and it's just so quick and easy. So now I'm going to use the stamp, and I'm going to position the stamp exactly over the mask where I had it. And then I can remove the mask of the puppy, and then I'll remove the whole group of masks and be able to stamp down. So I hope this is making sense of how I'm doing this. So I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink and stamp that out. And then I'm going to position the mask over the puppy. I decided to go with the one without a border because I'm going to be doing distress inks as the background, and I didn't want any white ghosting or anything. So I just go ahead and put the mask down as careful as I can with the tweezers, and then I will cut out the light from the other mask that I cut out, and that's the only fussy cutting I'll have to do. And that is the only reason I don't mask more, is really I hate spending all the time fussy cutting. So with the Scan and Cut 2, it makes it so easy, and I really should do it more because I think it really does turn out really special, and I enjoy it much more. So I'm going to set that back down where I had it, and then I'm going to put the ornament where I needed to stamp the ornament. So you just place the stamp over where you have the mask. and is positioned perfectly for you. And then you actually apply the mask to the card base. And then now I'm putting the mask grouping over, and I'm doing the same with the gift. And the guide is just showing me exactly where to put it. I don't have to think about it. I already figured it out. And now I'm going to cut the washi tape because I don't need both sides again. Once I stamp this gift, I'm going to be able to put the mask over the gift, and then I won't need to do both sides again. And I decided at the last minute to go ahead and put an ornament in the background because there was going to be a gap if I didn't. So I stamped an ornament, and then luckily I had cut out extra masks, and I always find I need more, so I always use more masks than I think I'll need. And I just continue going on, repeating everything, putting my stamp over where I had the mask, and then stamping it down, and then applying the mask. And it doesn't really take too long. It is a bit tedious, I'll be honest, but I think it's worth it. So now I'm going to stamp the Christmas tree, and I put the mask over the Christmas tree, and then I'm going to go ahead and use more washi tape because I want to hold that all down. I don't want any of the mask to lift while I'm putting distress inks over them. So I'm scrubbing so hard I made my card fly away, but I'm just going to gently put a little bit of distress inks, and I'm using some tumbled glass and some cracked pistachios, two of my favorite colors, and I'm just going to make a soft background. So I think the trick to this is to use a well-seasoned blender tool and make sure and rub most of the color off on the side on scrap paper, and then just gently keep getting the pigment down. I use a very light hand, but I do a lot of scrubbing. I don't know how else to describe it. But I want it to be very soft and just be kind of a hint of color. So it does take a little while to keep blending and blending very gently just to get a little bit of color. If you go too hard, it'll just, leave a round circle. So that's why you want to wipe out most of the paper on the scratch. Most of the distress inks you want to rub off on the scratch paper. But the masking paper holds down pretty well. And then now I'm going to use some pumice stone to make the shadows underneath, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wipe off most of the distress inks on the scratch paper so I can just kind of get a hint of color. And this is going to provide a shadow so that they don't look like they're floating in the air. And I think it looks really cute with a shadow underneath. Now I'm going to align my sentiment stamp, and I'm going to put my magnets to hold my card base down so it doesn't shift on me. And then align the stars. I'm going to put them on the right side. I'm going to put 2 on the right and 1 on the left. And I thought that looked nice. So I'm going to ink up my stamp and stamp that out with VersaFine pigment ink. And then I'm going to put the star on the right, and that's when I'm going to stamp it again. I almost always stamp my sentiment stamps twice. Then it's a really good black image. And after I gently peel the masking away, that's when I get to see everything and see that there's just a tiny bit of white gaps, and they're really not that big of a deal, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so I do usually try to go in and fix them. You really don't have to do this though. I don't think anybody would ever even notice really. But what I'm doing is I'm taking an aqua brush that's completely dry, and I've taken my distress inks and I've smeared a little bit on that palette, a ceramic palette, and it makes it really easy with these nylon bristles to pick up just a little bit. And because the brush, there's no water in it, but it's just a teeny bit damp, then it picks up the ink really well. So then I can go and blend it and just add a teeny bit, and then I'm doing that with the tumbled glass and the cracked pistachio as well. There's just a little bit that seemed a little too obvious, and it really, I'm sure once I colored this I probably wouldn't have been able to tell, but this is how I fixed it. Just in case you are a little bit of a perfectionist like I am. So now I'm taking a little bit of that tumbled glass and cracked pistachio, and I'm also coloring in under the puppy's chin and in the background I do go in later and add some gray to make that more shadowed looking, but at this point I kind of didn't want to forget about it and not realize what it was. So I thought it was a good idea. And now I'm going to put my mask back down because I'm going to do some splatters. And I'm going to use my acetate, which is what I use to cover things. I love using acetate because I can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm taking a little bottle that's full of perfect pearls and water instead of using a paintbrush. It's just easier to keep it in this little container. This happens to be from Close to My Heart. I don't think it's different than what you can get from any craft store. I think Tim Holtz has a version actually. So I love using acetate to block all my splatters because I can just see exactly where my splatters are going and are not going. I really just want it to not splatter over the sentiment, and I don't want it to, you know, change that black. I like it to be a stark black, and I can move it wherever I need it, and then I can reuse it every time because I just wipe it off with a microfiber cloth, and I'm only using one piece over and over for all my cards. So now I'm going to begin to color the puppy, and I'm using E30, E31, and E34. And the reason I love masking is because it seems like whenever I do masking and do a one-layer card, that is where I can tend to color more, I guess you would say, properly, and that is considering a light source. And I don't know if it's because I'm right-handed, but I always consider that the light source is going to be in the upper right-hand side, sort of where the stars are. And I do that with every card, and I don't know if it's because I'm right-handed or if I'm just extremely boring, but that's always where I tend to have my light source coming from. But whenever I do a one-layer card, I actually consider that, and I will add more shading and be mindful of that. So I am doing that, and I'm putting some more shadows like under the string of lights and under the neck, and I'm trying to put more of my shadows to the left side of the puppy because there would be more shadows there. So I just continue coloring light, medium, dark, and then I go back and blend it all out. And I did that quite a bit more than I usually do, again considering the shadows where they would be, and I try to concentrate the shadows on the left side of the puppy and blend it all out and try to still make it look cute, but I tried to put more shadows under the lights and just kind of the left side of the lights because I thought that's where the shadows would be. And then I will go through with an R11 and add the little cheeks, and then I blend that out some more. And for the ears, I went in for the ears and colored with E34, E35, E37, and E59. And I did the same thing. I started with the dark areas. I just always start at the shadow where I think the shadows will be, and I try to leave the rest of it kind of blank because I think it lets that area have more highlights and doesn't get too saturated with color. And then I'll take my medium shade, and I'm just going in the areas where I think there would be shadows or I want kind of some fur to make it look like there's fur. And then I'll go back and add the light shades and blend it all in at the end. But I tried to add a little bit of shadows and add just kind of like a little bit of fur. I flick in some lines to make it kind of look like fur on the very inside, and then the outside I really just blend it out, and I don't do too much to it. But I had a lot of fun when I was coloring this puppy because the whole time I was coloring this I was thinking of my dog Bella. And if you're new to my channel, we moved, I think it's been almost 2 years ago, and we moved out west from the Midwest, and we had to leave my dog with my mom. And I knew she'd be happier there because we weren't settled, and she has a yard with my mom, and she's a yellow lab, so she's a large dog. She's used to having a yard to play in and everything, but we've missed her so much. And in fact, we were FaceTiming her for a little while, and then we just had to stop because every time I would see her, I would just start bawling like a big baby. So the whole time I was coloring this, I was thinking of when she was a puppy. She was a good puppy. She didn't really damage too much, and she was wonderful. But I missed her so much, and that is going to be my Christmas present. My husband's driving back to get her and bring her home, and here I am. I'm going to start crying talking about it. Sorry. But if you have a dog, you understand, and they're just part of your family, and I cannot wait to see her again. She is my baby for sure. So back to the card. So I'm coloring the Christmas tree, and again I'm just trying to add a little bit of shadows. I wish if I had to do this again, I think I would have added some light gray for the shadows around the edges instead of just the greens. But at this time, when I was doing the Christmas tree, I just colored it using YG21, YG23, YG25, and YG17. And I added shadows with the YG17 and blended them out. And then I had to go color the nose with E79 because it was just driving me crazy seeing it blank, and then fix a few of my boo-boos with the 0. So now I'm going in and I'm coloring the lights, and all I did is take away the YG17, and I used the lighter colors to add the bow, color the bows, and a few of the lights that'll be green. And I just do a little bit of highlights and lowlights and add a little bit of shadows, but not too much, and then blend them out. So after getting all the green colors blended, I'm going to go in with yellow now, and I'm going to be using Y13, Y19, and Y17, and I'm going to color the star. And again, I'm going to leave that top section of the star blank at first because I'm going to put more shadows at the bottom, and then I'm going to try to color the ornament yellow that's going to be kind of behind the puppy. And I just did some darker shading. I didn't use any gray or anything. I just did some darker yellows. And then I'm going to do a few of the lights. And for the lights, I just colored half of the light with the darker shade and then blended out with the light. And it made it really quick and easy, and it turned out pretty cute, I thought. So for the blue, I'm using B02, B04, and B06. And again, just doing the light, medium, dark, and trying to go in for shadows wherever it's, again, like behind the puppy and along the bow, the line of the bow, trying to add more shadows there as well. And then I'm going to continue to use a lighter shade and blend all that out. And then I'm going to start coloring the ornament on the left side. And again, I'm going to start at the bottom where I think the shadows would be the bottom, and then I'm going to do the medium shade and the darker shade and blend it out. But I want the bottom shadows to be kind of towards the puppy and towards the floor. I hope that's making sense. And then I'm figuring out where I want the blue lights. I want to make sure and have about the same number of lights colored equally. So I was making sure I'd still have room for some red lights. And then I have to tap my fingers when I'm thinking for some reason when I'm making cards. And now I'm going to go in and add the red. And the red is really going to bring this all to life and make it pop. So for the red shades, I'm using R24, R37, and R39. In real life, I like the deeper shade of red. I really don't like the orangey shade of red, and so these seem to be my go-to for kind of a deeper shade of red. So I'm coloring the hat and the ornament, and again, I'm trying to consider where the light source is and add some shading. And I'm going to leave that very top right portion a little lighter for the light source. And then I'm going to go in and color the lights. And again, I just add the shadows on one side, and then I blend it out with the very lightest shade. And at the very end, I'm going to go in and color that last gift. And again, I did color this pretty dark because I figured there would be so many shadows. But that is what makes doing a one-layer card fun. I don't know why, if I don't do a one-layer card, I don't tend to worry about the shadows. I just color and have fun. But I think that's why one-layer cards are fun, because you can actually know where the objects are and then consider where the light source is going to be and make it look a little more interesting and realistic. So now I have to go in and slather everything with my Wink of Stella, and just put glitter everywhere. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but in this, I was editing this and I noticed, what is that stuff all over my sleeves? And then I was trying to figure out what in the world it could be, because I know I had went to Target that day and I didn't have anything on me. And then it dawned on me when I was taking my kids to school. Basically, we have a bunch of branches that are from Christmas decorations in our garage. Well, one of them fell down and attacked me when I was on my way to get my kids in the car, and it had like the snow glitter stuff. So basically, that stuff is all over my sleeves. It doesn't show up in real life, but it's showing up on camera, so the lights must be like reflecting it or something. But I thought that was really funny that I often have glitter on me from my craft room, but that was the first time I got glitter on me from my garage. So I've taken my white gel pen and I'm just adding some highlights and some little dots and details. And now I'm taking some tweezers and I am literally scraping the mistake that I made away. And that is what I do whenever I mess up the eyes, which I've done a few times. I never learn. I should just get a smaller pen or do something else. But I just go and scrape it away with my tweezers, and it almost always works, so that's why I never learn, because I can get away with it. But just like if you're doing your makeup and you mess up your mascara, it's easier to wipe it away once it dries. It's kind of the same thing with that ink I found. So now I'm going along and I'm adding some Nuvo crystal drops to add some dimension to those lights. And I think it looks so cute that way. And then the same thing, if I mess up on this, if I go a little outside the lines, I just use my tweezers to kind of scrape it away, and you'll never know that you ever got outside the lines. So that's a trick I often do, and I think I've told you guys that before. But so I'm adding some more white detail, and a few times I have to go over the red. It wants to bleed in and make it pink, so I had to do it a few times. I'm taking my bold folder and I'm going to crease my card base, and then I'm going to take some of this red and black checkered paper and put it on the back. I believe this is from the Cartabella set, and I love that buffalo plaid look. So I'm adding some adhesive and I'm going to pop my card base on that background paper and get it straight once I get it straight. And that's going to complete the card today. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.